Welcome back. Learning stations are a great way to address the diverse needs of students. Break up monotony and decrease teacher burnout. Whether focusing on a specific skill, objective, or remediation, learning stations can be an effective strategy when done properly. Let's take a look at an overview of learning stations and rotations. All right, so we're going to jump into learning stations and rotations. So we'll have an overview, look at the different model types, look at implementation and examples, and then we'll have our keys to remember. So in general, what are learning stations? It's structured areas for specific tasks. You are typically seeing these in the elementary setting. However, they are not grade band specific per se. You can do it across content areas, across grade bands. It doesn't matter. But students have structured areas for specific tasks. Students rotate through the activities. They also get the ability to explore, practice, or master at their own pace. And teachers usually reserve one of the stations for small group practice. So what's the purpose? It allows you to differentiate instruction, increase engagement, promote student autonomy, as well as maximize instructional time. So we're going to get into some of the specifics, but as you can see, structuring different workstations for a specific topic or a specific objective or a specific skill allows for differentiation. Your station variety is only as limited as your creativity. Okay. It allows you to break up that monotony by increasing engagement. So now you're not sitting there again trying to control 30 students. You have 10 at each station. We're rotating, every 20 minutes. It breaks up the monotony and allows for that engagement. The students get some autonomy. Maybe you can ask the students, what type of activities would you like to incorporate? So now they can get some choice into what type of activities are placed in the stations. And you get to maximize instructional time. Think about it when you're trying to go through a whole lesson, you're trying to maintain, a direct instruction lesson, if you will, even the I do, we do, you do. That takes a lot of time in the sense of first I have to explain what I'm doing, then I'm going to show you what I'm doing, then you're going to practice together what we're doing, and then you're going to do it on your own. Trying to maintain the student's attention for all that time, it can be difficult. So station rotations allow for differentiation and for you to maximize that instructional time, so you're not spending so much time managing behaviors or trying to gain people's attention, things of that nature. So what are the benefits? You get the active learning. Students are actually doing something. It's personalized instruction. It improves classroom management, as we just talked about. It allows students to collaborate, and it provides for strategy differentiation, right? Not just differentiation of the learning, but strategy differentiation. I may have the same skill that I'm teaching, but I'm going to allow students to experience that skill, hypothetically in 3 different ways, right? Because they'll rotate to each of the 3 learning stations. And you can have more, don't get me wrong, but we'll get into the modeling in a second. So the station foci. You can structure your station foci any way that you want. It could be that today we're going to focus on remediation. So I know what everybody needs to work on as far as to improve their skill sets. So station 1 is going to be, addition station. We need some practice with subtraction. Station 2 is subtraction station. Oh, we need some practice with verbs. Station 3 is going to be verbs. Okay, we need remediation in these things, so that's what we're going to focus on. Or it could be skill-based. You guys need to learn how to tie your shoes. You need to learn how to walk in a straight line. And you need to understand, how to use nouns in the sentence. Charles, you're all over the place. Yes, because you can do that when you have stations set up. You set the foci for the station. So it could be remediation, It could all be skill-based. It could all be objective/standard-based. It could all focus on SEL. It could focus on culture building or any combination. That's why I said earlier, the topics or the foci for the stations are only limited by your creativity. Okay, so you can mix and match, you can keep a full set. It all depends on what you're trying to do with the kids. That's why, as with everything else, it goes back to your planning. What are you trying to do? Okay, I'm gonna set my stations up accordingly. Okay, so don't think that, oh, just because we're doing remediation, that's the only thing I can focus on. No, you could have a remediation station number 1, skill-based station number 2, and a standards-based station number 3, or the like. So you can mix and match when it comes to the foci. Just make sure that it's purposeful and intentional. So what are some of the models that people use? The traditional model, the station rotation. The station rotation is your traditional model. You may have 3 stations set up. Students are going to spend 15 minutes at each station, and they're going to rotate. Okay. You may have the lab rotation. This is where some students, we really don't have computer labs anymore with the laptop. Some schools do, don't get me wrong, but students are working on an activity online while the other group is working, maybe with the teacher in a whole group activity, or maybe they're doing a kinesthetic activity, and then they flip. So it's a blend between the in-person and online or virtual learning setting. Then you have the flipped classroom, where students learn the material outside of the classroom. Maybe it's a homework assignment. They watch a video. Then when they come in the classroom, the stations are set up for them to apply their understanding and their knowledge of those specific skills. And then you have whole group rotation. So we may, as a class, start off with the kinesthetic activity. Then we're going to go to the SEL activity. And then we're all going to go to the writing station activity. So you can mix and match how you set up your models. You have flexibility. So what does a station rotation look like? As we talked about, students rotate through the stations. It usually includes a teacher-led, independent, and collaborative stations. This is a suggestion, okay? This is a suggestion because, especially with the older students, you may be able to set up independent and collaborative stations, and now the teacher's just using proximity to make sure everybody stays on task, clarify questions. They become more of a coach and a guide rather than, the beholder of the information. With the little kids, you may want to have a teacher-led station, especially if you're talking about, possibly using remediation. So the other groups are working on the independent and collaborative stations. I'm working with the small group to, remediate some of their skills, and then I'm gonna rotate. The lab rotation we talked about, we introduced rather. The lab rotation, students rotate to a computer lab. This could be on their tablet, laptop. So maybe you split the room in half. The students, one set of students stays with their laptop. They're working online with a specific and purposeful activity, while the other students are face-to-face with the teacher doing another activity. We talked about we introduced the flipped classroom. The content's learned at home through a video, maybe it's a homework assignment, and then when they come in, stations are set up so they can apply the skill, the concept, the objective that they learned at home. Okay, so now I'm not spending class time introducing this topic. We're going to spend the majority of our class time working on this topic, utilizing, applying it. And this is, maximizing that instructional time as well. And then the whole group rotation. Entire class rotates together. Maybe we start off in a reading circle. Then it's maybe a direct instruction, and then maybe a kinesthetic activity. The teacher controls the pacing, but they also need to be aware of the student's response to the activities as well. Especially like when you talk about that direct or direct instruction where it's a little harder to maintain the attention, you may, adjust accordingly. So what are some setup considerations? Before you start talking about we're going to do, stations, you need to set clear expectations. What is expected? How do we rotate? We talked about this, in the tips and tricks for teachers as far as providing those clear expectations and practicing routines until they're perfected, right? So I may introduce stations today, but all we're going to practice is going from our chairs to these stations and rotating. That's all we're going to do. We're not even going to do the activity yet because we want to set clear expectations, because there's no point in, just introducing the stations. Kids are running all over the place. They don't know what to do. No. You want to set those clear expectations. This is how it's handled. This is how it's done. Okay. Set time limits per station. Consider, your allotted instructional time, divide it up accordingly, allow students enough time to participate in each station. Account for your differentiated students in the sense of you may need extra time, you may need less time. You want to account for those things. If it's less time, make sure you have a backup activity. For that advanced student that might finish this activity in 10 minutes, you plan for 20. Now there's 10 minutes left over. What is that kid going to do? Or what are those kids going to do? Make sure you have a backup activity. But the time limits are important, and make them realistic. Materials prepared in advance. I can't stress this enough. You do not want to be cutting up stuff, trying to find stuff and, where's the glue? Where are the scissors? This, that, and the other. You want to have all this stuff done in advance. It may require you staying later that day, the previous day, or coming in early on the day of the stations. Doesn't matter. You want to make sure that all this stuff is, prepared. If you set clear expectations, I'm going to give you a hack here. If you set clear expectations, right, and you have a culture, a community culture, a supportive culture in your classroom, you could the day before say, hey guys, we're going to spend the last 15 minutes preparing for our learning stations tomorrow. I need you to do this. I need you to do this. I need this group to do this. So you're basically using learning stations to create the materials for your learning station. So don't think that, everything has to fall on you. Once you train the kids properly, honestly, you can have them help you out as well. That gives them some ownership over their learning. And then you want to have visual directions, like which direction are we going to? Is everybody going to rotate to their left? Is everybody going to rotate to the right? Are we jumping around? How are we going to, move about in these stations? You want to make sure that it's clear and visual for them. So strategies for implementation. We're going to start small. You don't want to have some grandiose makerspace, to start off with the first time you're doing a station. Start off small, make sure they understand what's going on, how it works. Make it a reward type situation. Use it as a reward. You know what, guys? If on Monday and Tuesday we do what we're supposed to do, we'll set up learning stations for Thursday and Friday. Oh, okay, great. Because they know that's going to break up the monotony of listening to the teacher, doing a worksheet, doing a quizzes, whatever. They know that's going to break it up. They know that the learning stations can be fun, right? So start off small, build accordingly, build based on the needs of your students. Teach routines explicitly. Can't stress that enough. Use timers. If you don't have, a timer that you can display on a smart board or a whiteboard, just use your phone. All right, I'm gonna set the timer for 30 minutes. Boom, it's gonna go off, and then we'll rotate. Assign roles. Who at that station is gonna make sure that everything's cleaned up? Is it everybody? Is there a leader at the station? Is there a recorder needed at the station? So when you're thinking about these activities, make sure you assign appropriate roles, and then you monitor and adjust. It may not go perfectly the first time. So what? Think about what went wrong, what you can adjust, and try it again, okay? Just because you try it one time and it doesn't work the way you want it to work, doesn't mean that it's not an effective strategy. it means you need to adjust. So you monitor and adjust. So here's some examples. Standard-based activities for math. You could have a station for problem solving. Then they switch after 15 minutes to math games. And then while the other two groups are working, the teachers in small group instruction either focusing on the same skill set, or like we talked about before, they predetermine which foci they're going to make their small group instruction focus on. Here's another one for ELA. Maybe you have a reading comprehension station. They read independently and they answer some questions. Or a writing prompt station. You give them a prompt, they get 15 minutes to work independently at their writing prompt station, and they create a writing prompt. And then over here, they're working on vocabulary practice. It could be teacher-led, it could be independent. It all depends on what the teacher structured. You have the autonomy to determine how these activities are structured. It could be all collaborative approaches. It could all be independent approaches. It could be teacher-led, or a combination of the like. Last but not least, we have a science example. So maybe we have an experiment station. Students are actually physically conducting experiment. We have a research station. Now they're finding the materials that support the experiment that they just did, and then the data analysis. So after they conduct their experiment, they're going to compare what they've done to the research that's out there and to their actual experiment. So as you can see, there are a lot of varieties and ways that you can work with your learning stations. It doesn't have to be the same thing every time. It should not be the same thing every time. Maybe for a week, 2 weeks at the most, maybe you have a repetitive structure, but then you need to switch it up, okay? Because just like anything else, cotton candy is good, but it has no substantive value. After a while, it's going to make you sick. Same thing with instruction. If it's the same instruction over and over again, it's going to make everybody sick, including the teacher. So you have autonomy. This is where you can flex your skills, your creativity, the art of teaching. Okay. So what are some things to remember in regards to learning station? Consistency is key. Those expectations, making sure that students understand it, making sure that you're incorporating learning stations on a frequent enough basis so students are comfortable with it. It doesn't become this, rarity where they lose their mind because they haven't done it in 4 months. Okay. Keep instruction simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Differentiate the task. We just talked about that. You don't want to do the same learning stations every day, all day. It doesn't work. Okay. It becomes repetitive and redundant, and their behavior will reflect that. And then you want to reflect and refine. Okay. Sit back, look, maybe this week you do all independent and collaborative practice, so you as the teacher can walk around and see what students are doing, so you can reflect and refine to see what new strategies you can present in your learning stations. Okay, see what's working, see what's not working, and so you can adjust. We hope that was helpful. Remember, learning stations are meant to be intentional learning opportunities, not busy work. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time. We hope that was